Sarah Williams drove her old Honda down Poplar Avenue in Memphis. The clock on her dashboard showed 8:30 p.m. She was tired after a long day visiting her grandmother in the hospital. Her grandmother had been sick for weeks, and Sarah tried to visit every day she could. Sarah was 28 years old and worked for the U.S. Army. She had been in the military for 8 years. Right now, she was on special leave to take care of her family. Most people in her neighborhood knew her as the quiet woman who lived in the small house on Elm Street. They did not know much about her job with the Army. The evening was quiet. Not many cars were on the road. Sarah listened to soft music on the radio and thought about her grandmother. The doctor said she was getting better, but Sarah still worried. Her grandmother had raised her after her parents died in a car crash when Sarah was 12. Sarah stopped at a red light and checked her phone. She had 3 missed calls from work, but she would call them back later. Tonight was for family. She put her phone back in her purse and waited for the light to turn green. Behind her, a police car appeared. Sarah saw the flashing lights in her mirror. Her heart jumped a little, but she stayed calm. She had done nothing wrong. She was not speeding. She had stopped at all the red lights. Maybe the police car was going to an emergency and needed to pass her, but the police car stayed behind her. The officer turned on his siren for a few seconds. Sarah understood. She was being pulled over. She took a deep breath and looked for a safe place to stop. Sarah pulled into a gas station parking lot. It was well lit and had security cameras. She had learned in the Army to always think about safety. She turned off her car and put her hands on the steering wheel where the officers could see them. 2 police officers got out of their car. They walked slowly toward her Honda. Sarah rolled down her window and waited. She had her driver's license, insurance papers, and military ID ready in her lap. The first officer was tall and thin. He looked to be about 40 years old. His name, Tag, said Officer Johnson. The second officer was shorter and younger. His name, Tag, said Officer Martinez. They both wore the dark blue uniform of the Memphis Police Department. Officer Johnson came to her window. He had a serious look on his face. "Good evening, ma'am." "Do you know why I stopped you?" Sarah spoke in a calm, clear voice. "No, sir. I don't think I was speeding or doing anything wrong." "Your left taillight is broken," Officer Johnson said. "That's a safety violation." Sarah was surprised. She had not noticed any problem with her car. "I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know it was broken. I can get it fixed tomorrow." Officer Johnson looked at her driver's license when she handed it to him. He studied it carefully, then looked at her face, then back at the license. "Sarah Williams, born 1995. This address on Elm Street, is that where you live now?" "Yes, sir. I've lived there for 2 years." Officer Martinez walked around to the passenger side of her car. He shined his flashlight into the back seat and looked around carefully. Sarah wondered why he was searching her car with his eyes. This seemed like more than a simple ticket for a broken light. "Ma'am, I need you to step out of the vehicle," Officer Johnson said. Sarah felt confused. "Is there a problem, officer?" "It's just a broken taillight, right? Just step out of the car, please." Sarah's military training told her to stay calm and follow orders. She opened her car door slowly and stepped out. She kept her hands visible at all times. "Officer, I'm in the U.S. Army. Here's my military ID." She held up her Army identification card. Officer Johnson looked at the military ID but did not seem impressed. "Army, huh? What do you do in the Army?" "I work in intelligence, sir. I'm currently on leave to take care of my sick grandmother." "Officer." Martinez finished looking around her car and came back to where they were standing. He whispered something to Officer Johnson that Sarah could not hear. "Ma'am, we're going to need to search your vehicle," Officer Johnson said. "Search my car for a broken taillight?" Sarah asked. She was getting worried now. This was not normal. "We have reason to believe there might be illegal substances in your vehicle." Sarah was shocked. "Illegal substances?" "Officer, I don't use drugs. I'm in the military. We get tested all the time." "You can call my commander if you need to." "Have you been drinking tonight?" Officer Martinez asked. No, sir, I was visiting my grandmother at the hospital. I can show you the parking receipt. Officer Johnson wrote something in his notepad. We detected the smell of marijuana coming from your vehicle. Sarah knew this was not true. She had never used marijuana in her life. Her military career would be over if she used drugs. She also knew that many police officers used this excuse to search cars when they had no real reason. Officer, I promise you there are no drugs in my car. I don't smoke anything. I barely even drink alcohol. You can search the car if you want, but you won't find anything. The two officers looked at each other. They seemed to be making a decision about something. Sarah noticed that Officer Martinez kept touching his gun. This made her very nervous. Ma'am, we're going to need you to. Put your hands behind your back, Officer Johnson said. Behind my back? Am I under arrest? For what? We're just going to detain you while we search the vehicle. Sarah felt scared now, but she tried not to show it. She had done nothing wrong. She was a soldier serving her country. She was visiting her sick grandmother. Why were these officers treating her like a criminal? Officer, can I call my commander? I think there's been a misunderstanding. You can make phone calls later. Right now, put your hands behind your back. Sarah looked around the gas station. A few people were pumping gas and watching what was happening. She hoped someone would record this on their phone if things went bad. She had heard too many stories about traffic stops that ended badly for people who looked like her. She slowly put her hands behind her back. Officer Martinez came behind her with handcuffs. The metal was cold against her wrists. She had never been handcuffed before, except during training exercises in the Army. This is just temporary, Officer Johnson said. We'll take them off as soon as we finish searching your car? Sarah nodded, but she did not believe him. Something was very wrong with this whole situation. A broken taillight should not lead to handcuffs and a car search. She began to think that this traffic stop was not random dot as she stood there with her hands cuffed behind her back. Sarah tried to remember everything she could about the past few weeks. Had anyone been following her? Had she noticed anything strange? Her work with the Army sometimes put her in dangerous situations, but she was supposed to be safe here in her hometown. The officers began searching her car. They looked under the seats, in the glove compartment, and in her purse. They found nothing illegal because there was nothing illegal to find. But Sarah had a bad feeling that this night was far from over. The search of Sarah's car took 20 minutes. Officer Johnson and Officer Martinez looked everywhere. They checked under the seats, opened every pocket in her purse, and even looked in her water bottle. They found nothing illegal. Just some gum, her grandmother's medicine that she had picked up from the pharmacy, and a few Army manuals. Sarah stood by the police car with her hands still cuffed behind her back. Her shoulders were starting to hurt. She watched the officers search her car and felt angry. This was not fair. She had done nothing wrong, yet they were treating her like a criminal. Officers, you've searched my car and found nothing. Can you please take off these handcuffs now? Sarah asked. Officer Johnson walked back to her. He did not look happy. We're not done yet. We need to search you too. Search me? Why? You didn't find anything in my car? Sometimes people hide drugs on their body, Officer Martinez said. He was standing close to her now, too close. Sarah felt very uncomfortable. I want a female officer to do any search. That's my right. We don't have any female officers available right now, Officer Johnson said. Then call one. I'll wait. That could take hours. Sarah knew her rights. She had learned about them in the Army and from growing up in a neighborhood where people often had problems with police. I'm willing to wait for a female officer. I have that right. Officer Martinez seemed to get angry. Look, lady, we're trying to be nice here. You can make this easy or you can make this hard. I'm trying to cooperate, Sarah said. But I also have rights. I've been polite and respectful. I've let you search my car. I just want a female officer for any body search. The two officers walked a few steps away and talked quietly. Sarah could not hear what they were saying, but they kept looking back at her. She was getting more worried by the minute. After a few minutes, they came back. We're going to uncuff you now, Officer Johnson said. But you need to keep your hands where we can see them. Officer Martinez took off the handcuffs. Sarah's wrists were sore and had red marks from the metal. She rubbed them gently and moved her shoulders to get the blood flowing again. Now, we need you to empty your pockets, Officer Johnson said. Sarah reached into her front pocket and pulled out her car keys. Then she reached into her back pocket to get her wallet. She moved slowly and carefully, keeping her other hand visible, but Officer Martinez saw her hand going toward her back pocket and shouted, "She's reaching for a weapon." "No," Sarah said quickly. "It's just my wallet. I'm getting my wallet." Officer Martinez had already drawn his gun. "Hands up. Hands up now." Sarah immediately put both hands in the air. Her wallet fell to the ground. "Please don't shoot. I was just getting my wallet like you asked." Officer Johnson also drew his gun now. Both officers were pointing their weapons at her. "Get on the ground. Get on the ground now." Sarah's military training kicked in. When people have guns pointed at you, you do exactly what they say. She slowly got down on her knees, then lay flat on her stomach on the asphalt. The parking lot was dirty and rough against her face. "I'm not armed," she called out. "I'm a soldier." "I'm not a threat." But the officers were not listening. They were both shouting different commands at the same time. "Don't move. Put your hands behind your head. Stay down. Spread your legs." Sarah tried to follow all the commands, but they were contradicting each other. She put her hands behind her head and stayed as still as possible. "Check her wallet," Officer Johnson said to his partner. Officer Martinez picked up Sarah's wallet from the ground. He opened it and looked through it. "Sarah Williams, Army ID, some credit cards, $43 cash. Any drugs? Any weapons?" "No, nothing." Sarah could hear people at the gas station watching and talking. Someone was probably recording. This on their phone? She hoped they were. She wanted evidence of what was happening. "Officers, please," Sarah said, with her face still pressed against the asphalt. "I'm a U.S. soldier. I work in military intelligence. I was just visiting my sick grandmother. You can call the hospital to check. You can call my commander. I have done nothing wrong." "Shut up and stay down," Officer Martinez said. Sarah closed her eyes and tried to stay calm. In the Army, she had been trained for dangerous situations. She had been shot at by enemy soldiers in other countries. But she never thought she would have guns pointed at her by American police officers in her own hometown. "Something's not right here," Officer Johnson said to his partner. "Her story checks out. Military ID looks real. No drugs in the car or on her." "She was reaching for something," Officer Martinez said. "Could have been a gun." It was her wallet. "We asked her to empty her pockets." Sarah could hear them arguing quietly. She stayed perfectly still and waited. She knew that any sudden movement could get her shot. "Ma'am, we're going to help you up now," Officer Johnson said. "But you need to move very slowly." Sarah carefully pushed herself up to her knees, then stood up slowly with her hands still visible. Her clothes were dirty from lying on the asphalt. Her face had small cuts from the rough parking lot surface. "I want to file a complaint," Sarah said. "This was not right. You had no reason to point guns at me." "You were reaching for something," Officer Martinez said. "You told me to empty my pockets. I was getting my wallet." "That's not reaching for a weapon." Officer Johnson looked uncomfortable now. He was starting to realize that they might have made a mistake. "Ma'am, we're going to let you go with a warning about the taillight. Get it fixed tomorrow." "A warning?" "After you handcuffed me, searched my car, and pointed guns at me." "For a broken taillight?" "Sometimes these situations get out of hand, officer," Johnson said. "We have to be careful for our safety." "What about my safety?" Sarah asked. "I'm a U.S. soldier. I serve this country. I protect people like you. And you treated me like a dangerous criminal." Officer Martinez put his gun back in his holster, but he still looked angry. "Maybe next time you won't reach for things when officers are trying to search you. I was following your orders." The situation was getting tense again. Sarah could see that Officer Martinez did not like being questioned. His hand moved back. toward his gun. "Officers, I'm going to get back in my car now and leave," Sarah said. "Is that okay?" "Yeah, get out of here," Officer Martinez said. Sarah walked slowly back to her Honda. Her hands were shaking as she opened the door. She had never been so scared in her life, not even during combat missions overseas. As she got in her car, she heard Officer Martinez say to his partner, "Something about her bothers me." Military intelligence? What's she really doing here? Sarah started her car and drove away carefully. She did not speed. She stopped at every red light. She used her turn signals. She did not want to give them any reason to stop her again, but as she drove home, she realized something important. This traffic stop was not random. These officers knew who she was before they pulled her over. The question was, how did they know, and what did they want? She also realized that she was in more danger than she thought. If corrupt police officers were watching her, her cover might already be blown. And if her cover was blown, her mission was compromised. Even worse, if the wrong people knew she was military intelligence, her life could be in serious danger. She needed to contact her commander immediately. But first, she needed to make sure she was not being followed. Sarah drove home slowly, checking her mirrors every few seconds. She wanted to make sure the police car was not following her. Her heart was still beating fast from what had just happened. She had faced enemy soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq. But tonight had been scarier than any combat mission. When she reached her house on Elm Street, she parked in her driveway and sat in the car for a moment. She looked up and down the street. Everything seemed normal. Mrs. Johnson was watering her flowers next door. Mr. Peterson was walking his dog. But Sarah felt like someone was watching her. She went inside her house and locked the door behind her. Then she locked the deadbolt and put the security chain on. She closed all the curtains and checked that all the windows were locked. Only then did she feel safe enough to think about what had happened. Sarah went to her bedroom and opened her closet. Behind her winter coats, she had a small safe. Inside the safe were her real military orders, her secure phone, and other items related to her secret mission. She took out the secure phone and turned it on. For the past 3 months, Sarah had been working undercover in Memphis. Her official job was in military intelligence, but her real assignment was much more dangerous. She was investigating a group of white supremacists who were planning attacks on military bases and government buildings. The group called itself the Southern Brotherhood. They had members in several states, including Tennessee. What made them especially dangerous was that some of their members worked in law enforcement. They had police officers, sheriffs, deputies, and even some federal agents helping them. Sarah's job was to find out who these corrupt law enforcement officers were. She was also trying to learn about their plans for attacks. It was dangerous work because if they discovered she was a federal agent, they would probably try to kill her. Tonight's traffic stop made Sarah think that her cover might be blown. The 2 police officers had acted like they knew who she was. They had searched her car for no good reason. They had pointed guns at her when she was clearly not a threat. Sarah used her secure phone to call her commanding officer, Colonel Martinez. It was late, but the colonel had told all his agents to call any time if there was an emergency. Colonel Martinez speaking. "Sir, this is Agent Williams. I think we might have a problem." "What happened?" Sarah told the colonel everything about the traffic stop. She described how the officers had acted, what they had said, and how they had treated her. She also told him about the strange comment Officer Martinez had made about her being in military intelligence. "That doesn't sound like a normal traffic stop," Colonel Martinez said. "It sounds like they were fishing for information." "That's what I thought too, sir. I think they might know who I am." "Have you noticed anyone following you? Any unusual activity around your house?" "Not until tonight, but I haven't been looking for it." "I thought my cover was good." "Your cover was good," the colonel said. "Which means someone on the inside leaked your identity." This was what Sarah had been afraid of. If someone inside the military or the FBI had told the white supremacists about her, then her mission was over. Worse than that, her life was in danger. "What should I do, sir?" "Stay put for now. Don't go anywhere." I'm going to make some phone calls and see what I can find out. Can you stay awake for a few more hours? Yes, sir. Good, I'll call you back. Within 2 hours. If anyone comes to your house, if anyone follows you, if anything strange happens at all, you call me immediately. Understood, sir. Sarah hung up the phone and went to her kitchen. She made a cup of coffee and sat at her table to think. If corrupt police officers knew who she was, they might come to her house tonight. She needed to be ready. Sarah went back to her bedroom and opened the safe again. She took out her service pistol, a Glock 19. She checked that it was loaded and put it on her kitchen table next to her coffee cup. She also took out a bulletproof vest and put it on under her shirt. Then, she turned off all the lights in her house and sat by the front window. She could see the street through a small gap in the curtains. If anyone came to her house, she would see them coming. As she waited, Sarah thought about how she had gotten into this situation. 3 months ago, the FBI had asked the Army for help investigating the Southern Brotherhood. The group was planning something big, but the FBI could not get anyone inside because they were very careful about new members. The Army had suggested sending in a soldier who could pose as a regular person. Sarah was chosen because she had grown up in Memphis. She knew the area and could blend in easily. Her job was to get close to members of the group and learn about their plans. Sarah had rented the house on Elm Street and created a fake identity. She told people she was on medical leave from the Army because of a back injury. She volunteered at local charities and went to community events. Slowly, she had made contact with people who knew members of the Southern Brotherhood. Last week, she had finally been invited to a meeting. She had learned that the group was planning to bomb a military recruiting center in downtown Memphis. They wanted to kill soldiers and make it look like a terrorist attack by foreign enemies. Sarah had also learned that several police officers were helping the group. They were providing inside information about security at government buildings. They were also helping to hide weapons and explosives, but Sarah had not learned the names of the corrupt officers yet. That was supposed to be her next task. Now, it seemed like the corrupt officers had found her first. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from a number she did not recognize. "We know who you are, soldier girl. Time to stop playing games." Sarah's blood went cold. Someone was definitely watching her. They knew she was military and they knew where she lived. She immediately called Colonel Martinez back. "Sir, I just got a threatening text message. They know where I live." "What did the message say?" Sarah read the message to him. "That's it," the colonel said. "Your cover is blown. We're pulling you out tonight. What about the mission, sir? What about stopping their attack? We'll find another way. Right now, your safety is the priority. Pack only the essential items. Leave everything else. A team will be there to pick you up in 30 minutes. Yes, sir." Sarah hung up and started packing quickly. She put her important documents, some clothes, and her weapons in a small bag. She also took photos of her parents and grandmother. Everything else would have to stay behind. As she packed, Sarah felt sad and angry. She had spent 3 months building her cover and getting close to the terrorists. Now all that work was wasted. Because someone had betrayed her, but she also felt relieved. Tonight's traffic stop could have ended much worse. If those officers had wanted to kill her, they could have done it and claimed she was reaching for a weapon. At least she was still alive. Sarah finished packing and sat by the window again. She checked her watch. The rescue team should arrive in 15 minutes. She just had to stay alive that long. Outside, the street was quiet. But Sarah noticed a van parked across the street that had not been there before. The windows were tinted, so she could not see inside. But she had a bad feeling about it. Sarah called Colonel Martinez again. "Sir, there's a suspicious van parked outside my house. Can you see how many people are in it?" "No, the windows are too dark." "Okay, the rescue team is almost there. They're in a black SUV. When you see them, run straight to the vehicle. Don't stop for anything." "What if the people in the van try to stop me? The rescue team is armed. They'll handle it." Sarah saw headlights coming down her street. A black SUV pulled up in front of her house. At the same time, doors opened on the van across the street. Several men got out, and Sarah could see they had guns. "They're here," Sarah said into the phone. "Both the rescue team and the bad guys?" "Run," Colonel Martinez shouted. "Run now." Sarah grabbed her bag and ran toward the front door. As she opened it, she heard the first gunshot. The war for her life had just begun. Sarah ran from her front door toward the black SUV as bullets flew around her. The men from the van were shooting at both her and the rescue team. The army soldiers in the SUV were shooting back. Sarah's quiet neighborhood had turned into a war zone. "Get down," one of the soldiers yelled. Sarah dropped to the ground behind a parked car. Glass from car windows was breaking all around her. She could hear bullets hitting metal and concrete. The gunfight lasted only 2 minutes, but it felt like hours. When it ended, 3 of the men from the van were dead. 1 had escaped. 2 of the army soldiers were wounded, but not seriously. Sarah was not hurt. "Are you Agent Williams?" asked the team leader, a sergeant named Davis. "Yes, that's me. We need to get you out of here right now." "Local police will be here soon." Sarah looked around at the destruction. Her neighbors were hiding in their houses. Several cars had bullet holes. Mrs. Johnson's flower garden was ruined. Sarah felt terrible that her mission had brought violence to this peaceful street. They drove quickly to Memphis International Airport. The army had a plane waiting to take Sarah to a safe location. But as they reached the airport, Sergeant Davis got a phone call. "Yes, sir. She's with us now." "We're at the airport." He listened for a moment. "Sir, are you sure?" "Yes, sir, I understand." Sergeant Davis hung up and turned to Sarah. "Change of plans. We're not getting on the plane. We're going to the FBI field office downtown." "Why? What happened?" "I don't know. Those were orders from Colonel Martinez." They drove to the FBI building in downtown Memphis. It was nearly midnight now. The building was mostly empty except for security guards and a few agents working late. They took Sarah to a conference room on the 4th floor. In the room were several people Sarah had never seen before. There was an FBI agent named Director Johnson, a woman from the Department of Homeland Security named Ms. Rodriguez, and a man in an expensive suit who did not introduce himself. "Agent Williams," Director Johnson said, "we need to ask you some questions about tonight." "Yes, sir." "Tell us everything that happened, starting with the traffic stop." Sarah told them the whole story again. She described the 2 police officers, the way they had acted, and the things they had said. She also told them about the text message and the gunfight at her house. "The officers who stopped you," Ms. Rodriguez said. "Can you describe them again?" "Officer Johnson was tall and thin, about 40 years old. Officer Martinez was shorter and younger, maybe 30. The man in the suit opened a laptop computer and showed Sarah some photos. "Are these the officers?" Sarah looked at the screen. There were photos of about 20 different police officers. She found the 2 who had stopped her. "Yes, those are them. Officer Johnson and Officer Martinez." The 3 officials looked at each other with serious expressions. "Agent Williams," Director Johnson said, "those 2 officers were found dead in their police car about an hour ago." Sarah was shocked. "Dead? How?" "They were shot. Someone killed them and made it look like they had been attacked during a traffic stop. But they stopped me just 3 hours ago. They were alive then." "We?" "No." "Which means someone killed them right after they let you go." Sarah tried to understand what this meant. Why would someone kill them? The man in the suit spoke for the first time. Because they had served their purpose. Someone used them to test whether you really were a federal agent. When they confirmed that you were, they became a liability. Who would do that? Someone very powerful, Ms. Rodriguez said. Someone who has people inside law enforcement and maybe inside the federal government too. Director Johnson opened a file folder. "Agent Williams, your mission was to investigate the Southern Brotherhood. But we now believe that group is much bigger and more dangerous than we thought." "How much bigger?" "We think they have members in police departments in 6 states. We also think they have people inside the FBI, the TF, and maybe even the Army." This was terrible news. If the white supremacist group had people inside federal agencies, then no one could be trusted. Anyone could be working for the enemy. Agent Williams, the man in the suit said, we need you to continue your mission. Continue? But my cover is blown. They know who I am. That's exactly why we need you to continue. You're the only person who has made contact with the group. You're the only one who knows what they look like and how they operate, but they tried to kill me tonight. Yes, but they failed. And now they'll think you're dead or that you've run? Away. They won't expect you to keep working. Sarah could not believe what she was hearing. You want me to go back undercover after they just tried to murder me? We want you to pretend to be dead, Ms. Rodriguez said. We'll create a fake news story that says you were killed in the gunfight. Then you'll get a new identity and go back to work. That's insane. Director Johnson leaned forward. Agent Williams, yesterday we learned that the Southern Brotherhood is planning something much bigger than bombing a recruiting center. They're planning to attack the Democratic National Convention in Chicago next month. Sarah felt sick. The Democratic National Convention would have thousands of people, including the president, the vice president, and other important leaders. If terrorists attacked it, hundreds or thousands of people could die. How do you know about Chicago? We intercepted some communications, but we don't know the details of the plan. We don't know when exactly they'll attack or how they'll do it. We need someone on the inside to find out. Why me? Why not send in someone whose cover isn't blown? Because it takes months to build trust with these people, the man in the suit said. We don't have months. The convention is in 4 weeks. Sarah thought about all the innocent people who would be at the convention. She thought about the families who would lose loved ones if the attack succeeded. She also thought about her duty as a soldier to protect her country. If I do this, what guarantee do I have that you can keep me safe? We can't guarantee anything, Director Johnson said honestly. This is the most dangerous mission any of us has ever seen. But you're the only hope we have of stopping a massive terrorist attack. Sarah was quiet for several minutes. Everyone in the room waited for her answer. What would my new identity be? Ms. Rodriguez smiled. We've already created it. Your new name is Lisa Thompson. You're a nurse from Alabama who just moved to Memphis. You're looking for work and a place to live. And how would I make contact with the Southern Brotherhood again? The same way you did before, through community groups and social events. But this time you'll be more aggressive about getting information quickly. The man in the suit closed his laptop. Agent Williams, or should I say Lisa Thompson, are you willing to do this? Sarah thought about her grandmother in the hospital. She thought about her parents who had died when she was young. She thought about all the soldiers she had served with who had sacrificed their lives for their country. Yes, she said, I'll do it. Good, Director Johnson said. But first, we need to stage your death very convincingly. Are you ready to die, Agent Williams? Sarah took a deep breath. I've been ready to die for my country since the day I joined the army. What she did not know was that staging her death would be the easy part. The hard part would be staying alive long enough to stop the attack on Chicago. And the hardest part would be discovering that the conspiracy went much higher than anyone had imagined. The news report appeared on every local television station the next morning. Army intelligence officer killed in Memphis shootout. The story said that Sarah Williams had died in a gunfight with unknown attackers at her home on Elm Street. The FBI said they were investigating but had no suspects, yet Sarah watched the news from a safe house outside the city. It was strange to see her own obituary on television. The reporters showed pictures of her in her army uniform and interviewed neighbors who said she was a quiet, nice woman who visited her grandmother every day. How does it feel to be dead? Asked Agent Peterson, the FBI handler assigned to her. New mission. Weird, Sarah said, but also freeing. Now I can do my job without worrying about protecting my cover. For the next week, Sarah stayed in the safe house and prepared for her new identity. She learned everything about Lisa Thompson's fake background. She practiced talking with a slight Alabama accent. She studied nursing terminology so she could convince people. She was really a nurse. The hardest part was not being able to contact her grandmother. The old woman was still in the hospital and probably wondering why Sarah had not visited. But if Sarah showed up at the hospital, it would blow her cover. Dead people do not visit their grandmothers. After a week of preparation, Sarah moved back to Memphis with her new identity. She rented a small apartment in a different neighborhood and got a job at a free medical clinic. The clinic served poor people who could not afford regular health care. Working at the clinic was perfect for Sarah's mission. Many of the patients were angry about the government and the economy. Some of them talked about conspiracy theories and blamed their problems on minorities and immigrants. Sarah listened carefully and tried to identify people who might have connections to the Southern Brotherhood. After 2 weeks at the clinic, Sarah met a man named Billy Watson. He was a construction worker who had been injured on the job. His insurance company had refused to pay for his medical treatment, and he was very angry about it. "The whole system is rigged against white working people," Billy said as Sarah bandaged his injured hand. "They give everything to the illegals and the welfare queens, but guys like me get nothing." "That must be really frustrating," Sarah said. Sympathetically, "You have no idea. I've been working since I was 16, paying taxes, following the rules, and for what? So some politician can give my tax money to people who hate America." Sarah nodded and let Billy keep talking. Over the next few visits, she learned that Billy was involved with a group that met every Thursday night at a bar called the Eagle's Nest. He said it was a patriotic organization that was trying to take back America. "You seem like good people." "Lisa," Billy said one day, "maybe you should come to one of our meetings. We need more smart people like you." "What kind of meetings?" "Just patriots talking about how to save our country." "Nothing illegal or anything, just concerned citizens." Sarah agreed to attend a meeting. The following Thursday, she went to the Eagle's Nest with Billy. It was a rundown bar in an industrial part of town. About 30 people were there, mostly white men between 30 and 60 years old. The leader of the group was a man named Carl Brooks. He was about 50 years old with gray hair and cold blue eyes. When Billy introduced Sarah as Lisa Thompson, Carl looked at her very carefully. "Lisa Thompson," Carl said. "That name sounds familiar. Have we met before?" Sarah's heart jumped, but she kept her voice calm. "I don't think so. I just moved here from Alabama." "Alabama, huh? What part?" "Birmingham. I was working at a hospital there, but I wanted a change." Carl nodded but continued to stare at her. Sarah wondered if he suspected something. The meeting was mostly complaints about the government, immigrants, and minorities. But toward the end, Carl talked about taking more serious action. "Talking is not enough anymore," Carl said. "We need to show these politicians that we're serious. We need to make them afraid." "What do you mean?" asked one of the men. "I mean it's time to stop playing games. It's time to hit them where it hurts." After the meeting, several people stayed to talk privately with Carl. Sarah tried to listen, but they were too far away. However, she did hear Carl mention Chicago and August. Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah attended more meetings and social events with the group. She slowly gained their trust by agreeing with their political views and sharing stories about her fake background in Alabama. Finally, Carl invited her to a special meeting at his house. Only 12 people were invited, and Carl said it was for serious patriots only. At Carl's house, Sarah learned the details of the plot to attack the Democratic National Convention. The group had been planning it for over a year. They had weapons, explosives, and detailed maps of the convention center in Chicago. But the most shocking thing Sarah learned was who was really in charge of the operation. It was not Carl Brooks or any of the local white supremacists. The real leader was Congressman Richard Hayes, a Republican from Tennessee who was running for president. Congressman Hayes appeared at the meeting by video call from Washington, D.C. He told the group that attacking the convention would create chaos that would help him win the presidential election. "After the attack, the American people will demand strong leadership," Hayes said. "They'll want someone who can protect them from terrorists and restore order. That someone is me." Sarah could hardly believe what she was hearing. A sitting member of Congress was planning a terrorist attack on his own country's democratic process. This was treason at the highest level. The attack was planned for the third day of the convention, when the president would be giving his acceptance speech. The terrorists would use bombs and automatic weapons to kill as many people as possible. They estimated that hundreds would die and thousands would be injured. Sarah memorized every detail of the plan. She learned the names of all the conspirators, the location where they were storing weapons, and the exact timing of the attack. But she also learned something that terrified her. Carl Brooks suspected that she was not who she claimed to be. After the meeting, she overheard him talking to another man about checking her background more carefully. "Something about her doesn't feel right," Carl said. "I want to know everything about Lisa Thompson before we trust her with anything important." Sarah knew her time was running out. She had the information needed to stop the attack, but she had to get it to the FBI before Carl Brooks discovered her real identity. That night, Sarah called Agent Peterson using her secure phone. She told him everything about the conspiracy, including Congressman Hayes' involvement. "Are you sure about Hayes?" Peterson asked. "That's a very serious accusation. I saw him on the video call. I heard him talking about using the attack to win the election. He's the one giving the orders." "Okay, we need to move fast. How soon can you get out of there?" "I'm supposed to meet with Carl tomorrow night. If I don't show up, he'll know something is wrong. But if I do show up and he's investigated my background, you'll be walking into a trap, probably. But if we arrest everyone tomorrow before the meeting, we can stop the attack and capture all the conspirators at once." Peterson was quiet for a moment. "That's very dangerous for you. It's the only way to make sure we get everyone. If even one person escapes, they might warn others and the whole network could disappear." "All right. We'll have agents in position around Carl's house tomorrow night. As soon as the meeting starts, we'll move in." "What about Congressman Hayes?" "We'll arrest him at the same time. The FBI is already getting warrants." The next evening, Sarah drove to Carl's house knowing it might be the last thing she ever did. If Carl had discovered her real identity, she would probably be killed as soon as she walked through the door. But Sarah also knew that thousands of lives depended on her courage. If she could help stop the attack on the Democratic National Convention, it would be worth the risk. When Sarah arrived at Carl's house, everything seemed normal at first. The same 12 people from the previous meeting were there. They talked about final preparations for the Chicago attack, but then Carl asked Sarah to stay after the others left. When they were alone, he pulled out a gun and pointed it at her. "Your real name is Sarah Williams," Carl said. "You're a federal agent and you've been spying on us." "I don't know what you're talking about," Sarah said. "Don't lie to me, we know who you are. The question is, how much did you tell your handlers?" Before Sarah could answer, the FBI burst through the doors. Agent Peterson led a team of 12 agents who quickly surrounded Carl and took his gun. "Carl Brooks, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit terrorism," Peterson said. At the same time, FBI agents in Chicago and Washington, D.C. were arresting the other conspirators, including Congressman Hayes. The entire network was captured. In a coordinated operation, the story became the biggest news of the year. A sitting congressman had planned a terrorist attack on American soil. The scandal destroyed his political career and led to major changes in how the government monitors domestic terrorism. Sarah's role in stopping the attack remained classified, but she was awarded the Medal of Honor in a secret ceremony. She continued working in military intelligence, but she never forgot the night when corrupt police officers almost ended her mission before it started. The 2 officers who had stopped her that night were later identified as members of the Southern Brotherhood.